Hello and welcome to another Tales from a Professional Nerd. My name is BryanCPSteele and I will be your nerd today and any other day that you watch one of my silly little shows. Hi everybody. Let's just jump in. I hope you're having a good day. So the weekend, Brian. It's been a pretty eventful week actually. We had my the Waking Realms D&D game. And I know I say this every week that we're getting close to the end, but the DM actually verbalized it. He said that we are probably at the last couple of sessions, and we are starting to plan what might come up next. So who knows what I'll be talking about here in a couple weeks. Also, over the weekend, I managed to go play both a game of classic BattleTech and a game of Alpha Strike BattleTech. Basically, me and my friends got together and played some BattleTech, and it was the first time that I really got to play Alpha Strike. I did a couple of demos and throw some dice around and stuff. Clan Ghost Bear all the way. Clan Ghost Bear. We won. Me and my partner won our classic BattleTech game pretty handedly, but it was still a tough match. The Alpha Strike game, however, it left us wondering if there is some balance issues between the Inner Sphere and the clans as far as the stat cards and things goes. The game system was fun. We had a blast with that. We were using kind of the basic rules. We didn't really get too in depth in a lot of the advanced stuff. Maybe that would have helped the Inner Sphere when they start using their dirty tricks and things. But that one was a shellacking. We brutalized them, and some of it was just dice. Some of it was my the opponent that was primarily on my side of the map. There went an entire like round of shooting and missed by one every time, whereas that same turn I could not miss. It was pretty rough. And Alpha Strike, if you haven't played it, it is a faster, more streamlined, simpler version of BattleTech, designed to play quickly and with larger numbers, like larger numbers of mechs, and things die quick. Things go away. They get deleted off the board pretty fast, and we're eager to try it again. And maybe it was dice, maybe it was our inability to use the higher level of rules. Maybe it was just mech choices. Sometimes there's that too, but it really did feel like some of the Inner Sphere stuff was not pointed out well enough. Like their damage numbers needed to come up a little bit, or their point costs needed to go down to make it better odds. But either way, we had a good time, and that's really all that mattered. Clan Ghost Bear was victorious. That also is what mattered. But we had a good time, and then just last night we actually got to play. I got to play in my wife's Land of Monsters D&D game, which we are. I think we're gearing up for. We're gonna have an episode here pretty soon that's pretty combat heavy. It feels we've had lots of talking, lots of negotiations, lots of role playing sessions, and it feels like the bubble's about to burst. So I think that we're probably in for a pretty gnarly fight here pretty soon, and we'll see how that goes. Maybe it'll be something super big and scary. Maybe it will be a whole bunch of little dudes just to kind of let us get out our frustrations. But more than anything, I was actually super impressed with my son. He plays in that game with us, and he really kind of took to the concept of playing a charismatic bard, and tried to sort of do some persuasions. He was really actually looking at his sheet and seeing what he's good at and seeing his numbers, not just waiting for the next time he gets to roll a die. Like, he actually And he wasn't going out of his way to make sure that he was part of every other person's scene, or I'm going to use it's on my sheet, so I'm going to use it. He actually was like thinking about being in character and trying to, this is what my character is part of the party for. This is what you guys probably have me around for. Let me give that a try. And he had a couple of scenes with some NPCs and stuff. It was cool. It was a good time. We had a good time. But like I said, I think we're probably about ready to get into the thick of something, and we'll see where that goes from there. Apart from that, just playing video games like normal. Put together one of my friends slash clients, a handful of his Star Wars Shatterpoint models. I will refrain from talking about the game, as that I have not played it in depth. The demo that I did of it left me wanting. But I will say this: while the models are oversized and very pretty when put together, whoever is in charge of planing those out and determining what parts go on what part of what sprue and whatnot, there are a lot of decisions. As a professional modeler, as someone who has helped sculptors put together models to put on sprues and in resin presses and things, there are parts of those models that are deliberately made poorly, like very detailed, which is great, but where the sprue connector is on a piece is like the pinky finger, which means that if you don't have the sharpest, greatest flat edge, or using like a scalpel to get those off, that finger is going to get bent or removed. The lightsabers, for being larger scale models, they are extremely thin and fragile, and like for ABS plastic, there is no reason why you should have something that I mean, I understand they're trying to make it, they're because they're larger scale, they can do more detail and more artistically, sound models. But it doesn't. You are still going to be playing a game with these. You're still going to be putting them together. You're still going to be storing them. And those lightsabers are horrifyingly thin and spindly. And there is no reason for some of the planing on some of the droids. None. I mean, it'd be different if like there was a component that like, oh, this you can take that component off and put that component on, and it's a different model. No, it's literally just like the back part of each one of the battle droids' heads is a separate piece. And I cannot for the life of me figure out why that would be. Apart from going, we need to put another spot on the sprue, or we need to make it so it's harder for people to 3D render these, or something. There has to be a reason, apart from just torture, because it's bad. They're, again, gorgeous models. Didn't care for the game, but the aspect of things, the parts that they put together for these models, there's a reason why one of my friends paid me simply to assemble his figures, because they were so unbelievably frustrating and difficult to do, and you have to go online to find instructions for them, and it just, I know none of you Atomic Mass guys are actually going to be listening, or maybe you will, I don't know. But whoever's designing your sprues, you need to tell them to make them more user-friendly. Because I am, no pun intended, a professional, and I was cursing your sprues while I was putting these models together. So, leave it at that. What else? So that's pretty much everything, like hobby-wise and game-wise, professionally. A lot going on in the background of the Evil Genius games. We have a ton of projects that are kind of... I have a bunch of stuff that I'm editing right now because I have several writers handing in parts of projects. I myself am slinging words on the Jaeger Codex, coming up with cool stuff. I had a really cool meeting with the guys over at Legendary to talk about, you know, some of the technologies and things that we're putting in the books, and got some really cool adventure ideas from their canon expert for both Pac Rim and Kong Skull Island. It's gonna be cool. There's a lot of really cool stuff coming down the pipe. I have a very fun license that is currently being negotiated and legal. And if everything goes well together, I can't wait to tell you guys about it, because it's super cool. It's like, is it a dream license that like I've been waiting my whole life for? No. But is it something that when I was told that it was going to be in my stable, more than likely, I was down, and immediately the ideas started to flow. So I can't wait to be able to dig into that and start, you know, creating cool stuff in that universe. Warzone Eternal, by this time, yeah, I don't know. Things are looking very good for late backing and backer kits and all that stuff being put together very, very soon. You actually just talked to Alex, and things are progressing as expected. So I know we're a little bit later than what we intended, but Gen Con got in the way. We needed to get the decal results for Death Ray Designs, you know, like it. So there was some stuff that happened. These sorts of things, you know, of all the problems that could happen with a Kickstarter, I'll take a slightly late backer kit and late pledge manager any day of the week, because there are so many other horror stories that could happen that thankfully didn't, or haven't, knock on wood. Shadowrun novel is progressing. I actually took a lot of time this last weekend to throw down a whole bunch of words and really kind of start getting into the plot of the plot of the book, which is good because I need to finish that book, not only by deadlines and all that stuff, but also because the next book I have already kind of outlined what it's going to be, and I think that it is going to be a ton of fun. Is it going to be probably very deep in the meta like the one I'm doing right now? Nah. It's just going to be a very entertaining book with a lot of characters that you've already met and you've already recognized, and some new ones. And if you are a fan of some of the board games and card games, you're going to get to see some of those characters on my pages. So I'm psyched for the next one, but obviously I got to get through the current one before I, you know, start the next one. Trying to write 2 novels at once would basically melt my brain. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it professionally. Personally, I am, like I said, I'm rounding the 20 pounds lost since Origins mark. So I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good on multiple levels. Like it's just a generally like a happy thing. Still going to the gym 3 times a week. My son wants us to maybe occasionally try and move the Monday to a Sunday so he can go. Yeah, no, it's just all around good things. I think that's really it for the week in Bryan. I mean, I wish there was more, but you know, things are good. I can't say anything. You know, it can't be like, oh, this is the horrors that are happened, but just, you know, all around good things. I'm happy. Oh, I can say, so my birthday was last week, and I mentioned that my 3D printer died, and that I'm now going to save up to hopefully buy a new one. I do want to put a thank you out. Those of you who did donate, you know who you are. And so thank you very much. I am about halfway to the new printer based off of your donations alone. So thank you. As always, if you want to try and help with that project, my Cash App and my PayPal are in the description of the video, and we'll see where we go from there. let's do this. Let's do this. So, today we are doing not so much an unboxing as a kind of a page through of two fabulous surprises that I was not expecting when I went to Gen Con. When I went out to Gen Con, I swung past the Renegade Games booth to go see my former colleagues, or my still colleagues, but my former coworkers, and lo and behold, there were two books in the physical that were there that I didn't know were already going to be available. And I talked to Jordan and kind of cleared it with him for me to give you guys, even though they're not actually going to be out for another couple weeks, to give you the rundown on these books and give you and show off some cool stuff. So the first one we're going to go through is A Jump Through Time for Power Rangers. This would be our primarily our time travel book, or playing in different time eras. It was a ton of fun to put together, not only because of the material that I got to play with, but also there is so much neat interdimensional and time stuff in Power Rangers that it's just a solid book. And it was a fun way to do things. One of the things that I do love on the cover is that, so this book I was able to design the Orange Ranger and Purple Ranger for the core Spectrum, and then design Quantum Rangers as an advanced Spectrum option. And so they've got them on the cover. This cover is gorgeous. I absolutely love it. All right, so let's go ahead and page on through this. I'm not going to spend 1,000. I'm not going to go super deep. But I do want to basically just kind of show you what's up. All right, so it starts off with the introduction, as expected. It's got the what is A Jump Through Time. So it introduces you to how what this book is supposed to do, giving you respect for time traveling stories. So it's telling you sometimes you can run it where you got to be careful about butterfly effects and things, and other times you can run it where it's just you're in a place and you're doing things, and then there's always the different ways that time and space interact. So that first section, we talk about some historic battles of the Power Rangers, which it's got like the Altarian War, the Blue Centurion and his Millennium Message, Rancic fighting against the Time Force Rangers across time, the actual introduction of the Dark Wizard of Deception, which I don't really know why, but they only call him the Wizard of Deception in most places here. Apparently the quantifier they removed. So also something to be known is this book and the second book we're going to look at, Decepticon Directive. Both of these books were written, done, and turned in long before I left the company. But there was still a lot of stuff that needed to be done to them in layout and things afterwards. So there are some things that didn't come from, so if you buy these books and you're like, man, why did Bryan do this? Some of this stuff very well could be, some of it's probably mine, but most of it's probably mine. But some of it could have very well come from some post-exit alterations and development. So yeah, so we've got some rules. So this is one of those call-outs that nice. Purposely vague. Time Force as an agency has as much power and influence as the GM wishes them to have. While it would be easy to have an omnipresent agency in the far future to be able to tell the players every specific detail of a mystery, this can ruin the fun for those who are hoping to figure things out for themselves. Time Force can be an excellent story tool to give glances at the problem if it suits the story, or perhaps a good use for a team spending story points to get aid when they are wholly stymied. So it's just basically, it's tips and tricks for you to use time travel without it being a complete game shatterer. Then we go into Chapter 2, Character Options. So we have... we have some new mandatory hang-ups. This is the first time I believe that we introduced mandatory hang-ups. Or did we? Across the Stars? I don't remember. But basically, normally when you make an Essence20 character, your first influence doesn't give you a hang-up. There are some influences now that are just a little bit cooler to be able to get without some kind of negative to them. So they come with mandatory hang-ups. So we've got influences wise, we've got the beloved. You have someone you are attached to emotionally that roots you in their life. We have the chronicler. A lot happens in the universe, and you've decided to make sure it gets recorded. We have the handler, and this is just animals are your friends, or at least you know all the best ways to encourage them to act friendly. Local legend. You are well known, almost famous in your local area. Paradox. This is one of my favorites. You exist in a situation where you, or another version of you, should not be. So that was one of my favorites. It basically allows you to do the, there are two of us in the same place at the same time and we shouldn't be there. Profiteer. You use your knowledge of past, present, and future events to make decisions that will surely increase your wealth. So that's really a cool, and not nearly as much for like, some of these influences, they weren't written specifically for every Power Ranger or every hero, but maybe if you wanted to do some time travel with a different, maybe create a villain, or maybe you use this book in conjunction with stuff that's coming out in Finsters, and you make a Psycho Ranger. Maybe that Psycho Ranger is a time traveler that is trying to gain wealth. There's ways to do it. Time displaced. You have fallen between the cracks of the time stream, slid and bounced through the decades or even centuries, and ended up stranded in a completely different temporal era. This is how you get people like a samurai showing up to join a sci-fi game, or someone from the far future that gets stranded in the past. That kind of thing. Then we also have Time Traveler. There's a little call out here that's very important. Truly not from around here. The not from around here influence in the Power Rangers role-playing game core rulebook can adequately cover a time-displaced person. Still, the rules here are much more specialized and representative of the situation. We suggest GMs discuss which version is better for their game campaign and Power Rangers team, depending on the level of time travel game effects they wish to have to influence it. So basically, if you're running a regular Power Rangers game and you're like, we're not going to really mess with time, but you still want to play somebody who's stranded from another time, don't take time displaced, just take not from around here. But if you are playing with a GM that's like, no, we'll mess with your time stuff, then you take time displaced. And then we have Time Traveler. You are unanchored in time, but it is by design. So it's someone who's willingly moving around time and space. Then we get into the origins. So the origins, these are... this is the part of the character that is a little, I don't want to say more important, but it is definitely more rooted. Whereas influences, you can take multiple of them and they represent parts of your character. Origins is really the heart of your character. First one we have is accidental. You exist in a world where time travel is possible, and unfortunately, you got swept up into it. So it's literally just someone who accidentally ended up in a different time, or perhaps constantly in a different time. We have by design. Adjusting, manipulating, and maintaining the space-time continuum takes immense skill, work, and planning. So that's someone that is their job to time travel. Driven. From early in your life, you have always pushed yourself to overcome your shortcomings, ensuring you can accomplish the tasks you set yourself to do. So this one's definitely not a time travel-based one. It's just really a good origin for anybody who you want to be, set to the course. We have inspiring. Through your words and actions, you urge people around you to greatness. We have the last of my kind. During the momentous happenings of the universe, there are times when an entire culture, civilization, or species gets wiped out. Whether through war, disease, or another event, you are the last one or one of a handful of the remaining people of your culture or species. So it's the kind of thing. So if you're a Power Rangers fan, Animus Kruger is technically, I would probably give him last of my kind, even though he's not technically last. He's one of the last, and I think it would still probably apply. We have low tech. Heroes rise from across the infinite timelines of the continuum, no matter the level of technology in their culture or home time era. So that's so you could play that samurai if you wanted to. No, I don't know about guns and stuff. No, I don't know about engines or whatever. But he's probably more adept in surviving. He's probably something that has had to maybe fight in a war that's swords and boards. Volunteer. Throughout time and space, there are many exceptional individuals who could have enjoyed safe lives, but instead rose to the occasion and volunteered to make a difference. So it's literally just an origin of I left my normal everyday life behind and decided to join some higher purpose. Then we get into the roles. So we have two new core roles. We have Orange, a crafty, creative fighter fueled by imagination and the sheer desire to do great things. And we have Purple, a warrior filled with the power of emotion, applying different shades of feeling like munitions in a weapon. So the Orange, we have some cool art there. So Orange has some very cool things. Their big thing that they get is basically they get to modify their morphing shell to do different things, to adjust to their creative spirit, and then that changes as we go. And they get a couple of other cool things. I do like their where is it? Is it Better Together? Yeah, they get better together. This is one of my favorites, that the Orange, because again, you Power Rangers the team game. Better Together. Orange Rangers use their creativity to help out their teammates. Upon reaching 5th level, when you choose to lend assistance to an ally who has a lower base skill ranks than you do in the applicable skill, your action gives them upshift of 2 instead of the normal 1. And then it actually becomes upshift of 3 at 13th level. So basically, it's even a better support character than just being there to support people. So I do dig that. And then so Purple Rangers are all of the instances of Purple Rangers that we saw when we designed this thing, they all. I don't want to be like they're all over actors. No, but they're all very emotive, very like drawn to a particular feeling, and not like a Green Lantern power ring or the different Lantern Corps colors in DC Comics. More along the lines of you can describe almost all of whether it's Korag's ambition, RJ's loyalty. Or even Bulk's stubbornness. Like you can basically claim some kind of emotional backing, and so we created an emotional. It's called Emotional Mastery, and basically you get to choose particular emotions that when you are kind of feeding off of that emotion, you get cool bonuses. For instance, and they range from good to bad to otherwise. For instance, if you have your emotional range contains anger, you gain an upshift bonus to unarmed and one-handed weapon attacks. But if you are feeding off of fear, your willpower and cleverness defenses are increased by 3. All the way down to like shame. You gain an upshift on your next skill test after being targeted by an enemy that was successful. If they were critically successful, you get 2 upshifts. So they're all benefits. There is no negative, even if it's a negative emotion that you happen to be feeding off of, that there's always a benefit to that ability. And then, of course, there's an advanced version of it later. Then we get into what was probably my riskiest thing to add to this book, and that is the advanced spectrum role of Quantum Ranger. Because in the show, there is only ever one Quantum Ranger, and it is it starts off as somebody who wasn't even a Power Ranger, and then it ends up in the hands of a Red Ranger, and it is canonically always a Red Ranger outfit. And I said, you know what? There is a quantum, there's the quantum morpher. What if a different Ranger got a hold of it? Are they automatically going to turn red? And so we expanded on that, and we basically said, no, if you are already a different, red might be the default, or like whatever the default setting was the last time it was used, but if you were already a different spectrum, the quantum morpher would just basically crank up what you already had. And the way that we did that is that it was the first time that we created an advanced spectrum role that specifically you cannot start it at 1st through 3rd level. You actually have to wait until at least 4th level to be able to take it. And it allowed you to have a little bit more of your spectrum kind of influenced into the quantum. And so its table starts at 4th level. And you get your Quantosaurus Rex, you get different quantum powers, you get the quantum morph. So yeah, it gave us an opportunity to make truly an awesome Power Ranger time cop that doesn't have to be the same thing every single time. Because again, it's a role-playing game. We want to give options for players to help create their own thing. And I was able to commission an awesome piece of art that shows not only the red Quantum Ranger in right there, but then it's got, the different colors. It's got a green, a yellow, a pink, and a blue Quantum Ranger to show you maybe what some of those outfits would look like if you were that Ranger before you quantumed. So, there we go. I think that's pretty much it. One of the things that I do, so I love the concept of messing with time travel, but making it gamified, giving it stats, giving it the ability to be used in a game that isn't going to completely break the universe. And so one of the ways that I did that was, Chronomantics at 12th level, you can make minor adjustments to time all around you. Once per scene, you can force a single die rolled for any reason to be re-rolled, and you get to choose which result you want. So, and it says any single die. That means your opponents, your friends, your Zord, and it doesn't say for a skill check or anything. It's because you're basically slightly manipulating time. It allows you to get the outcome you want out of a particular moment. And then we get new role options. So these are things that we had thought about as a way to basically extend without creating a bunch of like how G.I. Joe has their focuses, without creating a whole bunch of focuses for Power Rangers, because that's not really what it feels like for Power Rangers. Is now there are spectrum modifications that allow you to replace part of that spectrum with a new thing that maybe is shown better or shown a little bit more in a different Ranger throughout the series. So Green Spectrum replaces their unique weapon with Brainstorm, allowing them to make temporary devices. Pink Spectrum replaces Hard Target with Contingency Shot, which is basically lets you sort of anticipate someone and take shot at them. Blue Spectrum replaces Grid Tech with Defensive Flexibility. Now, because it replaces Grid Tech is a big feat, or a big perk for the blue roll. So this is a different. It lets you make a more combat person rather than not even really combat. Just basically make you tougher across the board without messing around with a bunch of gear. We have Black Spectrum trades in whatever we need with Iron Bravado, making you a great leader. White Spectrum trades in Follow Me with a Mysterious Aura, and then the aura actually basically changes based off of what you want it to be. Yellow changes Nimble Fighter in for Heavy Force, basically letting you be a heavy hit Yellow Ranger if you want. And then there's a Red Spectrum modification of Let's Bring Them Together, turns it into Pay It Forward. And that's very similar to some of the other teamwork based things, that instead of doing a big combat action, you get more of a blanket benefit to your team around you. Then we got some, you got some new skills, or rather new uses of existing Essence20 skills that are based on time. We have some new perks. There's a handful of new form perks. We have things like additional Zord, Going Heels, which is a Wild West style gunfight, so you could actually make like a gunslinger Power Ranger. We have history buff, inheritance. You actually get, someone in your past is giving you something cool. Personal heirloom. We got some forms. We have Storm of Lead. It's another Wild West one. Lets you basically do fanning with your weapon. And then we got some new grid powers, like Charge It Up, Cryogenic Touch. You do cold attacks. Future Vision, allowing you to see into potential future events. Gremlin's Mischief, you use grid energy to mess with machines. Megazord Link, it allows you to basically become part of the Megazord. Time Jet allows you to summon one of those personal vehicles. Same thing with like the Strata Cycle. Stylish Strike, you deal damage in flashy and flamboyant ways. Anytime you inflict a critical success with any kind of melee attack, you remove the frightened, impaired, or mesmerized conditions from all allies in the scene. Basically, you do something so cool and so fancy in combat that everyone goes, yeah, and they snap to. Then we have new contacts. We added the Silver Guardians, Time Force, the White Knight as Guardians. Then there's a whole chunk of time travel based equipment and weapons and armor, and it goes through the different eras, depending on which area you're playing in or which era you might want to take your time traveling game to get one of these items. We have new miscellaneous equipment. We've got new battleizers. Then we get into vehicles, which there is a ton. Some new weaponry, as always, tons and tons of weapons, including rules for like catapults and trebuchets and things, because again, time travel. How cool would it be to fight a giant monster with a bunch of catapults and trebuchets? We have Zords and new Zord features. We also include rules to have Time Force Zord or Zord attack vehicles from RPM. And then a whole bunch of new Zords. Just Zord. Including all of the Zord attack vehicles from the Ranger Operators. The Paleozord. yeah, we made sure that everything was in this as much as we could. There's a couple of really cool shots of some of the Megazords. Paleo Max, the Valve Max, Zenith Megazord. You know, there's some cool stuff. And then there's one that I think is probably one of the most ridiculous ever, the RPM Ultra Zord. But then we were able to actually include some of the funny ones too, like the Baconodon, or Baconodon, as someone has told me that it's also, or the Featherdactyl, the ones that were from kind of a dream episode for Skull and Bulk. We have an SPD Blast Runner. Then there's a whole section. This is one of my favorite pieces of art, this whole book, and I'm going to show it to you. It is a Blue Ranger that's part of the ERPS stand at the OK Corral from Deadwood. I love it. So we've got, it's different versions of time travel, how you get through it, what happens, what's the difficulty to get to where you're going, the different risk to create time anomalies, you know, how to repair anomalies, how do you fix time when you've broken it, just all kinds of great stuff. And then we go through basically different time eras, what's good ways to play the game there, what's some cool story hooks. Another good piece of art, a Green Ranger cowboy. You know, what is it like to play in the domed city of Corinth? You know, and then threats. We have lots of them. We've got Batlings, we've got Cyclobots, Dark Dimension Phantasm, Dark Dimension Possessed, Demon Warriors. So we have some Altarians. We even included the Lava Lizards. Yeah, no, there's just a bunch of great stuff in here. The rules for the Scorpion Cartel, a whole bunch of RPM bad guys, different attack bots, the Contemptra, we added her. Let's see who else. A couple of bounty hunters, the Dragontron, which I love it. Dinobot is just basically a robot that blows things up. The Electropede, Generation 9 Nazbot. Yeah, just great, cool stuff. Max Axe. Yeah, we did some really neat things. The Rabbitcon, which does not really look like a rabbit very much, but he's supposed to be rabbit-themed monster. Sawbot, Red Eye, Severax. Yeah, a bunch of great stuff. But then we did make sure to include... Where's he at? Oh, the Generals. Young version of Goldar, which is cool. And then we have... Where's he at? Rancic himself. We made sure that Rancic's in there for those of you who wanted to play Time Force. We got some demons. And then we've got the Wizard of Deception, the Dark Chronomancer. And then the cover, again, in a kind of postery form in the very back if you wanted to take a picture or something like that. So, great book. Super fun. And I hope if you're a Power Rangers fan or an Essence20 fan, you will grab it for all the time travel goodness. All right, now the next one, Decepticon Directive. I realize that we spent a lot of time already in this, so we're going to kind of blur through this a little bit more. So this book was super fun because I was able to. It is honestly probably my my favorite book that I've made for Essence20. Or maybe the best book that I've made for Essence20. My favorite's probably Finster's, based off of everything that hopefully made it through the development process. But this one, I've looked through this book a couple of times now, and it more or less left, like, this is more or less the same book that I wrote when I handed it in. And it was a lot of fun. I love Transformers so much, but like getting to make rules for people like Acid Storm and Nova Storm, all the Insecticons, and making an Insecticon, class. It's so much fun. So it starts off with just a little bit of an intro of what's it like to be a Decepticon. Not all Decepticons are mustache twirly villains. Some of them are freedom fighters. Some of them honestly do believe that Megatron liberated Cybertron from the oppressive, Autobots that were in charge of everything. We've got rules for all the Recordicons, the mini cassettes, the Tremorcons, and it's not really rules so much as a lot of these are just descriptions, so you could build them in your own game or include them as an NPC or something like that. We've got the Combiner teams as far as just the notable teams, because the Decepticons have a ton of Combiner teams that they have access to. Now, we also made sure that there is a call out that says playing a Decepticon Combiner character. In game terms, any Decepticon character can technically be a part of a Combiner assembly team. All it requires is the awakening of the Combiner element in them and the presence of a Combiner specific influence or general perk. These character options aren't presented here or in the Transformers role-playing game core rulebook, but the GM can work with a player to narrate their membership on a Combiner team until they are published in a more Combiner-focused Essence20 product. Hint, hint, wink, wink. That was something that I wrote the majority of before I left the company. So, and I know we've talked about it several times. Great picture of a version of Starscream, or possibly a Seeker character. We have a whole bunch of cool stuff. We have, let's see. All right, how do we start? We start with influences. We have the Extremist. You want to bring the system down. We have the Fanatic. You believe fully in the words and orders of your superiors and the ways of your faith, and you would follow them into the depths of the pits and back again if you needed to. We have the Gutter Champion. Coming up from the depths and lower layers of Cybertron, or perhaps the dark corners of some other world, you live to stand up against the status quo and the people in charge. We have the Lackey. There are those that lead and those that follow. You are one of the latter. Nemesis. There is someone out there, some other being that you have clashed with again and again and again. This being has chosen you to be their arch rival, their recurring opponent, their nemesis. You can go long stretches without taking actions against them, but whenever the time arises, you know they're just as obsessed with you as you are with them. More mandatory hangups. We have the Recruiter. Not all Decepticons are created with the faction's goals in mind. At some point, someone came to them and told them of the fearless rise of Megatron and his inner circle of revolutionaries. Someone like you. The Refinery Laborer. The Energon refineries on Cybertron, as well as those on some territory planets and colonies, are staffed for a variety of tasks, including by Cybertronians like you. So it's someone who basically is kind of an Energon, a little more of an Energon mastery. The Traitor. The Decepticons have made a vast number of enemies across the galaxy since their rise, and you used to be one of them. That is, up until you flipped your allegiance. You are a traitor to your former faction, and no matter how deep you get in with the Decepticons, that fact will always stay with you. So you get to play someone who maybe was a former Autobot, or someone from Junkion, or something like that. We have, like, Naw, who was loyal to the Quintessons for a long time, and then and ended up. I think he ended up becoming one of the Ocean Combiner guys. Then we have some Origins. In Origins, we have the Armory Call, which is basically your alt mode is an object or armor or something that someone else gets to use. The Drone. You are one of the many, a piece of the greater war machine that is the Decepticons' battle against the legacy of the Primes. Drone is pretty cool because it allows you to... You are basically... You started out as a cloned Spark, and like so many of the body duplicates and things that we've seen in Transformers, some of them eventually rise to kind of be their own thing. They become their own power. They they're unique, even though they didn't start that way. That's what this is. That's what being a drone is. Now, you get to choose some cool stuff. You get to choose a perk, you know, all these kinds of things. You get to choose your alt mode as the origin that you copied, or that you were copied from. But you also get a drone imperfection. And that's the drawback of being a drone. Basically, something is weird and different about you in particular, and that's why you were able to kind of rise up and be special and manifest your own spark. Then we have the Insecticon. You come from a long line of Cybertronians with roots in the primal forces that shaped entire planets. The Swarm, capital S, is as much a part of you as you are of it. So that's, I love the Insecticons, and so there's no doubt why I made sure that this was in here. I wanted to be the one that created the rules for Insecticons because I love them. I love them. I love them. And then you actually have the character version of the Minicon. So like Recordicons and the cassette bots and things. Some of the smaller weird robots throughout Transformers can fit in with Minicons. And basically it allows you to, if you wanted to play maybe a partnered up game, play with your buddies playing a Mode Master, and maybe you're one of the tapes that attaches to him, he can get, you know, they can go ahead and get another one that comes with their role as normal, or their origin as normal, but then you get to make kind of your own special version. And a lot of the character versions that we see, some of those character cassette drones and things, they get way cool. And it just didn't seem right not to make something that filled that role. Because the regular Minicons, while they do get cooler over time, they pale in comparison to some of the Minicons that we see in the various Transformers media. Monstrosity. You have a spark that burns brighter and hotter than most so-called civilized bots. Where others set their T-Cogs to take on the forms of racers, planes, tanks, and more, your fire forged your shape into that of a great beast, a vicious thing from ancient times and stories from across the cosmos. It is so ingrained in your spark to be this beast, you are almost more comfortable living in a storm of teeth and claws than existing as a common citizen. So things like the Predacons and the Terrorcons, that's what we did with Monstrosity. Let's say I want to make Deathsaurus. I'm probably going to need to be a triple changer at some point, but I think he's a triple changer. No. Yeah, I'd have to look it up. I think, yeah, I thought he had another alt mode. But either way, he's basically a monster most of the time. Salvaged. Seeing the world's refuse, scrap, and junk as a potential resource, you are among those mechanoid beings who know the best way to use it. This is really where the Junkions can come from. There's also the Recyclons, the Junkion drones kind of thing. They are definitely survivors, to say the least. And then we have some roles. So rather than replacing, there is one new role in here, but rather than doing that as a hard and fast rule, we wanted to make Decepticon add-ons, basically other things that are more Decepticon themed that attach to the original roles. So these are different versions, different role options that you can get from the main book, but then you get to do this. We have, first off, Decepticons replace for the Allspark, the Allspark Cybertronian perk with Hail Megatron. Basically an offensive version of the defensive Autobot one. But then the Analyst gets, let's see, Analysts get their new focus options are the, we got the Corruptor and the Inquisitor. Yes, we have the Corruptor and the Inquisitor. The Corruptor take data and information from various sources and find ways to change them into traps and tools. Inquisitor rip the secrets and information from their targets, often leaving unthinking husks of robots in their wake. Field Commanders, we have the Mastermind and the Tyrant. Mastermind field commanders cook up devious schemes to get their teams in and out of trouble. When a mastermind leads, though, no one's really safe from their deceits, friend or foe. Tyrant field commanders are powerhouses of fear and physical threat, wielding others' lack of courage or bravery with the efficiency of a weapon. Then we have gunners. We have the Cannonade. Cannonade gunners are masters of directing explosions and saturation bombing a foe with area of effect munitions. And then we have the Triggerbot. Triggerbot gunners focus their training and technology adjustments to a single two-handed heavy weapon. It's like a rifleman, kind of. Mode Master. So Mode Masters, we have the Mimic. Mimic Mode Masters adopt many alt modes with many purposes, each one specializing in a certain utility. So this is where you're going to find like eventually your 6 changers and things like that. Triple changers would definitely fall into Mimic if you wanted to. Then we have Minion Master. Minion Master Mode Masters, that's hard to say, are mobile headquarters of Minicon minions that benefit from their specialization. So these are kind of ways for the Minion Master is kind of a way for Soundwave and Blaster to exist without heavily modifying the Mode Master regular Minicon version that we had before. Scientists, we have the Cyber Engineer. Cyber Engineer scientists put their fellow Cybertronians through arduous and painful processes to give them new and potentially powerful tools. So the Cyber Engineer is pretty cool because you actually get to do surgery on your friends and give them cool stuff, hopefully. And then the Elementalist. Elementalist scientists tune all of their studies to one group of energy. Energy wavelength, chemical compositions, or other elemental families to master their use. So you basically choose, I am a fire scientist, I am an ECM scientist. So you figure that out. Or EMP scientist. What do we have? Scout. We have the Demolitionist. Demolitionist scouts set up hidden snares for enemies to blunder into and deal damage to fortifications. They're your siege operators for lots of explosions. Then the Tracker focus. Tracker scouts catch the proverbial scent of their targets and follow them to the ends of the galaxy, if that's what it takes. Those are going to be literally your kind of your bounty hunter style, hunters. A lot of your monstrosities, which is a great picture of hunger there. But that's a great way for you to make like a bounty hunting Decepticon who like catches the scent and goes after them. Warrior. Decepticon warriors are rough and tumble fighters. Oh, sorry. We already know that. The first one, the focus is the Brute. Brute warriors seek only one thing in conflict: victory. They will do just about anything to achieve it. So they are just dirty fighters. And then there's the Shredder. Shredder warriors are close quarters combatants that prefer to feel an enemy's chassis bend and rip in their claws and teeth whenever possible. That's going to be anyone that you want to do natural attacks like teeth, claws, spikes, that kind of stuff. The Shredder is going to be a great role focus. And then there's a brand new role altogether, the Raider. Fighting like a lasting conflict against a significant foe, like the ones the Decepticons wage against the face of the Primes, the Autobots, requires forcibly taking territory and resources from the enemy. So it's effectively, it's a bandit. It's they hit things and take stuff. Their focuses, they got a bunch of cool stuff that's based off of, all the various things that they've stolen, or claimed, I should say. Their focuses, we have the Acquisition Expert. Acquisition Expert Raiders are fast-moving, sticky-fingered attackers who rely on hit-and-run tactics to inflict damage and fill their proverbial pockets. And then we have the legitimate Siege Master. Siege Master Raiders dig in their heels, or treads, and deliver powerful long-distance blows that can grind walls and other fortifications to dust. Then we have a ton of general perks where you get between additional minicons, Energon Manipulator. You get to have a thicker hide because you have forge. You worked in a forge, in one of like the Cybertronian forges. So your armor is just sort of heat resistant, and you're just tougher because it's where it's at. Things like Cruel and Bootlicker, Shiny Finish, or one of my favorite, the Word of Unicron. We'll get to that in a minute. Basically, you're a follower of Unicron. Some new minicon perks that help define some of the cool things that we've seen the minicons do, like prowling or being a little holy terror. Whole bunch of equipment that ranges anywhere from weapons to armor upgrades, including the armor matrix that was supposed to be in the original book. The only way for you really to start the game with armor. Junk plate, pit plates. You can have new support equipment, like an additional pair of limbs. So if you're alt mode, you have to have an animal, creature, or monstrous alt mode. That's how you can have like an Insecticon with extra arms, or how Arachnid has, all their stuff. A ram cone, so you can be Ramjet if you want to. Then there's actually a couple of vehicles that we've seen from the different shows. Then we get different strains of Energon, including the basic Energon Cube and Energon Snack, solid state Energon, so the crystal version, and then Dark Energon, which does gnarly stuff that we see. Primal Energon, which is more or less like combat drugs. Red Energon is extremely volatile, but it enhances you physically. Synth N, which is synthetic Energon, and then Tox N, which is toxic Energon. There's a whole section on running a Decepticon campaign, various things you could do to play the various levels of villain or antagonist in your own story, so to speak. A bunch of different locations. We've got some cool alien creature art, like the Voin. Speaking of Deathsaurus, there he is. And a piece of art, Deathsaurus being attacked by a bunch of Insecticons. Love it. Different plot seeds in order to play. Rules for fighting in the pits of Cybertron if you wanted to. Then we get Junkion. One of my favorite pieces of art of Unicron. Rules for a prison break on Styx. The Unicron Singularity. But then, when I was mentioning the whole Dark Energon thing and Unicron and the Word of Unicron, so there are followers or devotees that believe the Unicron is their god, and they actually have benefits based off of being a worshiper of Unicron. Because we see in the movie that those who pledge themselves to him can be reformed and reshaped. And that's what this is. So I'm going to go through and just tell you how cool these are. So we have Rites of the All-Consuming. The most zealous and devoted followers of the Way of Unicron can lead many ancient Cybertronian techno-rituals rooted in the demigod's legendary transformative powers. For every skill rank in the culture skill, a follower with the Word of Unicron General Perk gains the rite associated with the die of that skill rank. I'm not going to tell you what they do, because you should get the book and find out. But I will tell you their names and the progression. We have at D2, you get Eat the Weak. At D4, you get Distill His Essence. At D6, you get See Through Him. At D8, you get Grant His Hunger. At D10, you get Champion His Way. And at D12, basically the highest rank you could get of the Rites of All-Consuming. Like, you're a complete devotee in his image. Let you figure out what that kind of does. Then we have one of my favorite sections of every book, the threats section. And of course, for the most part, the threats in the Decepticon book are Autobots. I'm just going to blur through them. Not going to tell you, blur. I'm just going to tell you what's up. But I also, because the Decepticons do a lot of travel, and they do a lot of attacking of other life forms and things, we included some of the alien life forms. So basically threat rules for including things like the Cartharsians. They're kind of like Cybertronians, but they don't change. The collective brute. Now, the collective is an alien thing. It is not just these are a collection of brutes. They're just big kind of space ogres. The Eurythmans, the Gorlamites, which if you have recently seen the Transformers movie, the animated movie, the first planet, spoiler, the first planet that Unicron eats, those are Gorlamites that get swallowed up. Nebulans, Probats. It's a great picture of a Probat. Quintessons and Sharkticon drones. And then we get into some just regular Cybertronian civilians, because we know that sometimes if you're playing an antagonistic campaign, you might try and boss around some civvies. So we have a bureaucrat and a courier, and then a laborer, and then we've got some Autobot drones. Autobots don't generally use drones, but they are available. It is something that we know that they do exist. They're not as disposable as like Decepticon drones, and they're more likely to eventually find their spark because they're sort of taught and protected and things by their fellows. But we have the Autobot Infiltrator, the Autobot Racer, an Autobot Rescue Agent, and an Autobot Soldier. Then we get into the named Autobots. We have RC, Blaster. I love that picture of Blaster with his recorder, his cassette army. Bulkhead, Bumblebee, Cliff Jumper, which I got to create the rules for his glass gas. My boy Grimlock, you know I love me a Dinobot. So the Dinobot, using this book and a lot of the threats, you can sort of figure out what Dinobots should have in future books. I say should because I didn't write the Dinobot. I didn't write a Dinobot book before I left, but I did write the rules for Dinobots. Hopefully they will follow suit. We have Hot Rod, and then put a little note in here that said, what about Rodimus Prime? In one timeline, when Optimus Prime falls in combat to his Decepticon rival, the immensely powerful matrix of leadership is passed to Hot Rod, unlocking his true potential and turning him into Rodimus Prime. The augmentative power of an artifact matrix changes someone immensely, in this case, increasing his threat level by 10, with all of the equivalent bonuses involved. So we didn't create a rule set for Rodimus. We just basically said, if you want to do a Rodimus Prime and play in that era and play in that time frame, add 10 to Hot Rod and boost him up. Make him amazing. Hound, Ironhide, Jazz, Jetfire, Cup, one of my favorite grumpies, Mirage, who, by the way, I know the new Transformers movie, The Rise of the Beast, got a lot of flack. I thought Pete Davidson did an amazing job as Mirage. Rules for Omega Supreme. So if you really, really just want to, tip the scales, you got it. Can't not have Optimus, of course. Gotta have good old Optimus Prime. Perceptor, Prowl, Ratchet, and then the Recordabots. We have Eject, Ramhorn, Rewind, Steeljaw. Then we get Roll Bar, Sideswipe, Sunstreaker, Wheelie, Whirl, Windblade, which, by the way, we did have Windblade. This is the version of Windblade that has the Stormfall sword, but we did not include her city speaker abilities, apart from the fact that it alludes to the fact that she has them, mostly because there's no rules for Titans and stuff in this book, so including city speaker on this would have been kind of weird. So there's that. Rekgar, gotta love Rekgar. And then we have rules for an adventure, an actual pre-written adventure that is the Great Energon Robbery. Basically, it is a Decepticon train robbery. It includes all kinds of great, cool stuff. A neat map to show you how where's one thing that you should be able to play. And then I think that's it. I think we get to the end, and then that's just got some more maps, and then that's the end of the Decepticon book. Like I said, I know I kind of blurred through that one a little faster, but it's because I didn't want this episode to be a million years long. Also, so if you are a Transformers fan, you should totally get this book. It is fantastic. Even if you aren't going to play with Decepticons, it has got a ton of really, really cool stuff in it, even for Autobot campaigns. So, yeah. I do know that there were a handful of other Autobot threats that didn't make it in there, so maybe we'll see them in future books. That things get cut for page count. It is what it is. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed the quick run through of us talking about these books. And if you are a fan of Essence20, if you're a fan of those two books, that you will get a chance to really dig in and look at them when you can pre-order them from Renegade Games. And get I think when you pre-order, you get the PDF for free. Or when it comes out, you just go ahead and buy the PDF or whatever's clever. Either way, they were a ton of fun to make, and I do hope that they get a lot of wonderful use. I know that I'm going to get to use them at my own game tables for the games that I run, and I hope that you do too. So please, please, please be safe, get vaccinated, wear masks in places where you think you need to, wash your hands, and try and leave every place you go a little happier than when you got there, and I think the world would be a better place. Apart from that, I will see you next week, which I believe I'm going to have another cool unboxing. I'm trying to line up an interview with a gamer, but I'm having some troubles because it's convention season. So I might just have a really cool unboxing. But one way or another, you guys have fun, be safe, play some games. I will see you in a week.